Story 1 by Reddit user Ben SK2346. In the summer of 2017, around 2 hours after my grandfather passed away, me and my sister were in a horrific car accident. It was a bit past midnight. We were on our way to my grandpa's house. I was behind the wheel and driving moderately fast. I was supposed to make a U-turn, but the brakes failed and we hit the guardrail. The front of the car was demolished, and both of us were badly injured. I believe I lost consciousness for a few seconds, and when I woke up again, I looked over at my sister and saw blood all over her face, and realized that she too had lost consciousness. She was slowly coming round when I squeezed myself out of the window and went to the other side of the car to get her out. Her door was stuck just like mine, so I couldn't get her out. People started gathering around and calling 911. The firefighters came and removed the door and finally got her out of the car. When the ambulance was taking us to the hospital, I was having the longest déjà vu of my entire life. I knew which hospital we were going, even though nobody told me. I knew how the interior of the hospital looked like, somewhere I'd never been before. I even knew the name of the doctor who was supposed to stitch me up, someone that I've never met before. It's weird because as soon as me and my sister were alone and could talk to each other, she told me about how she feels like she's been there before and was feeling déjà vu the whole time. It might seem normal for people who suffered head trauma to experience these kinds of things and read too much into something that isn't actually there. But it's a lot more weird than it seems to be, like on first glance. I believe that both of us died on that timeline, but for some reason our consciousness switched on into parallel versions of ourselves in another universe. And the constant feeling of déjà vu was because of our consciousness settling into the bodies of our alternate selves with the original consciousness still present, which caused the feeling of experiencing everything twice. Now here's something truly bizarre. There was this song called Salem by Moss and Javosi, which my mum loved and listened to almost every day. Even when my mum didn't play it, my older brother would. It was kind of a signature song in our home back in 2005 to 2007 or 8. So, a few months after the crash, I was having a conversation with one of my co-eds about music. She was, without a doubt, the #1 fan of Moss and Javosi, to the point that we used to call her a Javosist. She was talking about her favourite Javosi song, and I remembered all those years of listening to Salem. I said, "Yeah, he's a good singer. My mum loved Salem. She used to play it on repeat until someone became sick of hearing it." She frowned and asked me about the song that I just mentioned. She said that he doesn't have a song named Salem. I thought maybe I got the name wrong, so I sang the chorus. She shook her head and said it's not Javosi's song. She named Farouk as the singer. I swore that the song I used to listen to was Javoshi's. His voice is unmistakable. There's no way I'd be wrong about that. So, she asked me to send her the song. Obviously, I didn't have our old computer in which the song was stored on, and I couldn't find our old Javosi mix CD. So, I Googled it, and no matter how much I looked, I couldn't find it online. I even searched by the lyrics and only found the song Salem by Farouk. I thought maybe it's the same song and I was wrong all along. So I downloaded and listened to it. But the song by Farouk can't be more different from what I remember. Sure, it has the same lyrics, but the melody and genre of it is completely different. So, I asked my mum about it, and guess what? She never heard of it. Neither did my brother who gave us the song in the first place. They have no recollection of that song, whether it's Javoshi's or Farouk's. On the other hand, my sister remembers it. I sang her the chorus and she said that it was Javoshi's song. Somehow, She and I have memories about a song which doesn't even exist in this world. I don't know why or even how it's possible, but I sincerely believe that we moved through the dimensions when we were both unconscious after the crash. I've heard stories that happen to other people, which are similar to our experience. I don't want to get into too much on this one, but I think it has something to do with my grandpa's death. Maybe we were supposed to die that night, but his death caused an event which led us to moving on into another universe, where we didn't die. Story 2. By Reddit user Masquerading Muppet. Hi, I'd like to ask if anyone else has had an experience like this. I've had a handful of weird things happen in the woods in the years I've been camping. This one, and one other experience, have both stuck with me a lot. So this happened in September 2017 in the Kettle Moraine State Forest in southeast Wisconsin. 2 friends and I decided to do a last-minute camping trip before the end of summer and classes started getting into full swing. I was going to my grad school year, and my 2 friends were going to be seniors. None of us had been drinking when this happened. We set up camp and decided to go for a hike along the Ice Age trail that ran next to the campground before it got too dark. We didn't leave with a specific plan in mind, but found a loop trail and continued on that. This section of the woods had trails that were on top of a ridge, so there were steep drop-offs on either side. Not like you'd die if you fell, but pretty steep 20-foot hill drop more like, so you can't really go off trail. So the trail is probably 4 or 5 miles, and by this point we're going on our last mile and the sun is setting. We didn't realize we'd take this long, so none of us even had our headlamps with us. But that's fine, since we guesstimate we only have about another mile left or so. We round a small corner and the trail ahead has trees arcing from either side of the path overhead, creating a doorway almost. That wouldn't be a big deal except for the fact that the area of this doorway was shimmering, almost like when you drop a stone into water and it ripples and sloshes a bit. We all stopped, and one of us said something along the lines of, "Am I dehydrated or does that look weird?" That's the best way I can describe it at least. We all saw it, but there was no turning back at this point. We only had maybe 30 minutes of daylight left. Couldn't go around and couldn't turn back. Finally, one of us, I think it was me, but I don't recall for certain, stuck our arm through. Nothing happened. It still looked the same, shimmering like water or heat off blacktop on a hot day. We all walked through and were fine. Seemingly. We joked for a few days and weeks that we'd stepped into an alternate universe. I'm only friends with one of the friends now, and a few years later I brought it up to her, and she just said she didn't want to think about it. It didn't impact me that way. I just thought and still think it was odd. Anyway, I've heard of stairs in the woods, but we can't be the only ones to encounter a portal in the woods. Story 3. This story is also by the Reddit user Masquerading Muppet. I thought I'd post my other unexplained glitch here as well. Like I said in my previous post, I've seen and felt a number of weird things in various national parks, BLM land, and national forests. I'm actually going to get my Wilderness First Responder certification this March because of some uneasiness last summer in a remote park. But really, only this and my other post could be described as a glitch in the matrix. I did a volunteer program after college and we frequently went on nature retreats as a big group. This happened in November 2018 at a campground just east of Mount Rainier National Park. It was so remote that no one in our nearly 50-person group had cell phone service. Our only tie to the outside world was a ranger that came to check on us once a day. We weren't allowed to have alcohol or drugs at these retreats, so no, none of us were intoxicated in the slightest. There were a couple of cabins throughout the campground, and if you walked through the trees a bit, there was a sizable lake. A few friends and housemates and I wanted to look at the night sky because we knew it would be full of stars. This is Washington State, so all the trees are massive and block out most of the sky. The only place we'd really be able to see stars would be over the small lake. So we head down to the lake area despite it being pretty cold. There's 2 logs there for us to sit on as well. We settle in, waiting to see some shooting stars. It was a running joke in our house that we needed to see 5 shooting stars when camping or in the woods in order to fall asleep. 4 out of 5 of us in this group all lived together at the time. So, we are all steadily watching the night sky for about 10 to 15 minutes, when this happens. It only happened for maybe half a second, but we all saw it. For the shortest moment of time, half the sky went completely white. Just stark white, like a sheet of paper was placed over half the night sky, right down the middle. After a moment, one of us said, "Did everyone see that?" We all confirmed what we saw. If you read my last post, you know I of course was wanting to figure out what it was. I never found a solid explanation, and similarly with my other friends, these friends also told me to stop talking about it whenever I brought it up months or years later. It wasn't scary to me. Just again, super odd, and I don't have an explanation for it. It made no sound, and was gone before any of us could comprehend it beyond what I described. It wasn't lightning. I'm from the Great Lakes region, so I know lightning. It was an airplane. No idea. Story 4. By Reddit user Magical Bunny. I don't think I've posted this before. If I have and somehow forgot, my apologies. Boring relevant info first. I was born in New South Wales, Australia. The capital is Sydney, and my hometown for the first 2 years of my life was a few hours' drive north of Sydney. At the age of 2, my family left New South Wales and moved even further north up to Queensland, putting us many hours in the opposite direction of Sydney, about 18 hours by car. Fast forward to 2013 and I meet a guy in Sydney online and we start dating. He visits me the first lot of times, and then I went down there to see him. He decided to show me around the markets and other areas. Now, I'd never been to Sydney that I could remember, but suddenly assumed I must have been there because I remembered pretty much everything. The streets, the markets, roads, I remembered it all. I also remembered riding the monorail, which was opened in 1988 and decommissioned in early 2013. Growing up, I always remembered the experience and my sister being with me while I was on it. It was such a clear memory, I never thought to inquire as to whether it actually happened. When I got back home, I told my mum about everything again, and remembering riding the monorail and how it was no longer operating. My mum looked at me strangely and told me that she had never taken me to Sydney at all, and that while my family lived in New South Wales and moved to Queensland when I was 2, there'd never been a trip to Sydney. To this day, I have no idea how I knew my way around Sydney, or how I came to remember riding the monorail with my sister when my family says it never happened. Bonus weirdness. To add to the weirdness, the guy I was dating was quite bizarre, and I ended up believing he was a spy. He had claimed to go by one name and to work in a particular place. Turns out, he never worked there despite regularly chatting to me about his workplace and the people there in an animated way as if he had. He also claimed to be a school teacher under another name, and at one stage, years after we had broken up, he appeared as a suggested friend on Facebook under yet another name. Before that profile quickly disappeared. He also took regular private flights somewhere with people he claimed had offered him money to play poker, despite the fact that he wasn't actually much of a poker player. Yeah, strange. Story 5, by Reddit user Thoax. This happened 7 years ago. I was still in college, struggling to finish my remaining exams, drinking every Saturday with my friends on the bridge in front of the local castle. A few different groups of people were always there, all of them friendly and about the same age. This is important information for later. My parents own a fishing supply shop. It's a small town, home business, with many people coming in either being elderly people or youngsters getting in on the fishing action. So one day I was waiting for my mother to handle all the customers as the cashier, while my father was explaining details to new fishermen. I needed to talk to her, so I waited aside. Since there was so many people waiting to pay and get their receipts, one older man approached me, asking me if I knew his grandson. He told me his name, and I realized he is one of the drinking buddies from the Saturday booze sessions. He told me about his issues with college professors, his plans to move to Germany with his girlfriend, all kinds of information I didn't know about the dude. He came next in line to pay, so he quickly did, and while exiting the shop he waved to me and told me not to forget to greet his grandson. Next Saturday, I meet the dude and told him his grandpa said hi, only to see him go pale and shocked within a second. Both of his grandparents were long time dead. I described in detail what he looked like, how he talked, how tall he was, and he thought I was joking. I asked him to show me all of the pictures of his older male relatives, and he managed to find many on his Facebook profile. He showed me, and I picked the right person within seconds. The older man I saw had no brothers or similar-looking relatives. Dude I told this to was weirded out by this, and he left soon after. The day after, I asked my mum if she had noticed anyone like that. It's a small town, but my parents don't know anyone coming in, or notice not so well-known people when there's many customers. My mother told me that she had seen a man talking to me yesterday while I was waiting, and described him in the same detail as I'd seen him. There's no similar-looking dude with that name and surname as the older man told me, so it's not possible it's a mix-up. All of the details this man mentioned about this dude were correct. I could never know his life plans, nor have I heard them from anyone else. To this day, thinking about this puzzles me. It's creepy, haunting, and I don't like it even though nothing bad happened. Story 6, by Reddit user The Codeine Scene. It's my first time posting here, but I'm ridiculously puzzled and need to tell someone that won't think I'm insane. I went to bed last night after staying up and watching the ball drop. I read for a bit, took my dog out, and then went to bed. Before going to bed, I realized that my apartment was a bit of a mess. Clothes on the floor, a few dishes scattered around, some plastic wrap left about from Christmas, and I planned to clean it today. My dog and I went to my room, locked the door, and went to sleep. For context, I live alone in a second-story apartment. I have security cameras on my front door and back balcony, and I also have a doggy cam pointed at my dog's crate in my bedroom. That also has my bed in frame. I re-watched the videos from last night, and there was no movement besides the usual stand up and stretch my dog does, and me tossing and turning a bit in my sleep. But when I woke up and walked out to my living room, it was clean. Clothes picked up and in the washing machine, not running or full. Dishes cleaned and put away in the cabinets, plastic from Christmas presents thrown away. Everything was back in its usual place, and I've been trying to figure out what the happened. I have no history of sleepwalking, and the cam would have picked it up. No one came into my house. I just cannot figure out, so I wanted to see if anyone has any kind of explanation, or has experienced something like this before. CO levels in my apartment are fine, and there's no evidence of any gas leak. Downstairs neighbours had their detector checked too, and it was fine. I'm pretty good at keeping up with my annual doctor visits and have screenings fairly often. Cancer, heart, and thyroid issues run in the family, unfortunately. But I will make a note of it to discuss with my doctor if anything else happens. I do not drink or take any recreational drugs. Any meds I currently take, I've been on for over 3 years with no issues. I have cameras and lock my bedroom door because I'm relatively young and live alone. I also have a legal background and understand the significance of evidence if anything were to happen. Thank you for watching and/or listening to this video. Again, if you enjoyed it, please go ahead and hit the like button. And if you don't already, go ahead and subscribe to my channel and select the notification bell so don't miss out on any of my future uploads. Also, please leave a comment on this video letting me know what you thought of it. Comments really help with the YouTube algorithm and will really help my channel to grow. If you have a story you would like me to narrate, please email it to me at stories@daredeveril.com. I'm getting close to my next major milestone of 100,000 subscribers to this channel. Thank you to everyone who is continuing to subscribe to this channel and contributing to its growth by liking videos and leaving comments. Once I get to 100,000 subscribers, my plan is to reward you all with an epic video with over 3 hours of original content. It will probably be about Wendigos, as you all seem to love these stories. If that is the sort of thing you want to hear, please keep helping this channel to grow. If you want to support my channel even further, there are a number of ways you can do so. You can buy me a coffee on my Ko-fi account, which I recently set up. It's still in the early stages of being set up, but I plan to release some exclusive content on there in the future. Check out my Teespring store and consider purchasing one of my shirt designs. I have a design with a dogman, a Wendigo, skinwalker and Bigfoot all on a zebra crossing. It's a must for anyone that likes these types of stories. You can also head over to Audible, where there is the book Punch by J.R. Park that I narrated. I get a small royalty if you decide to purchase it. Thanks again for watching.